Okay, great. So happy Tuesday after Thanksgiving. It is November 29th at 4 o'clock. And this is our last virtual Career Tuesday of the fall semester. And we saved the best for last because we have PepsiCo joining us today, a company that I think all of you know what they do and are familiar with their products. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Joe Salgado from sales. Raise your hand, Joe. And
Everybody.
Kevin Anagnostou from supply chain. Did I get that right, Kevin?
Yes, you did, Judy. Nice job.
Okay, good, excellent. And they're from PepsiCo. They are very anxious to chat with UConn students and especially seniors, if we have seniors on this call, and if not, those that will watch it later. So I'm going to then, Kevin, if you want to start us off
Yeah.
and tell us a little bit about supply chain, and I believe that you're based in Rhode Island.
Yep.
And then you can hand it over to Joe, and we'll go back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Judy. Good evening, everybody. So I just want to introduce myself, go over my career a little bit as me and Joe talk about the roles and opportunities that Pepsi has. So like Judy said, my name is Kevin Anagnostou. I am the plant director at the Cranston, Rhode Island manufacturing facility. I've been with Pepsi for 11 years. So I went to a small school in Springfield, Massachusetts called American International College. I studied business. And then I went and interned with Pepsi in Connecticut as a logistics intern, doing some routing for trucks. And I did that for my senior year in college as well, before I joined PepsiCo as a campus hire. And that's the roles that Joe and I are looking to fill, are campus hire positions that enter our sales and supply chain. So I joined that program. I then moved to Rhode Island, where I started at the manufacturing facility. And I did about a 3 to 6 month onboarding where I just got a foundational knowledge of how a manufacturing and warehouse plant works. I then became a warehouse supervisor where I worked a second shift Tuesday through Saturday, overseeing our transport loading operation. I then became a production supervisor where I oversaw our first shift production team. So where we do the packaging and filling and palletizing of our products. I did that for about 2 years before I was promoted to be the production manager at the Cranston, Rhode Island facility. At that point, I oversaw the entire operation over 3 shifts, 6 to 8 week operation. And I did that for about 3.5 years before I picked up and moved to Fresno, California, where I became the warehouse manager. So I oversaw the warehouse department in a very large warehouse in a plant in Fresno. I did that for about 2 years before I picked up and moved again. This time I moved to Johnstown, Pennsylvania. So central Pennsylvania, where I was the senior operations manager. So it was a much larger facility that did over 30 million cases produced. And I oversaw 2 departments. So I oversaw our quality control and production departments. And then just about 6 months ago, I was able to come full circle where I moved back to Rhode Island as the plant director to oversee the entire facility that I started. Right. And so supply chain and this role that we're looking to fill is a frontline supervisor within our manufacturing warehouse. Okay. So like I mentioned before, this is where we start the process with our raw materials, bottles, cans, labels. We start with syrup. We batch syrup in tanks. We bring it over to a filler. We mix it with water and we create soda. Then we fill it. Then we package it. And we have supervisors that oversee those operations on each shift. So they're people leaders leading a group of frontline employees, so machine operators, forklift operators, over a course of a shift, as well as a warehouse where we distribute full pallets that we make to other warehouses across New England, Northeast, all the way up to Michigan, all the way down south as far as Virginia. So we do that warehouse operation, and then we have what we call our DSD, so direct store delivery operation, where we have warehouse loaders that are picking cases that are going to the stores right here locally in Rhode Island, parts of Connecticut, and Massachusetts. Okay, and that's what a plant encompasses. So that's a little bit about supply chain. So I'll hand it over to Joe to give a little intro, and then let Judy ask us some questions.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So again, my name is Joe Salgado. I've been with Pepsi now for 15 years. Started my career in the Stratford, Connecticut facility as a warehouse loader, working nights, loading trucks, working my way through college. From there, I was able to go to our Brookfield facility and help run that warehouse for about 3 years. Then I came back to Stratford as a delivery supervisor, merchandising manager, sales district leader for large format, small format. And then I got the pleasure of running the Stratford facility for 5 years. I became an S&D ops manager for the company, in which I was overseeing cost and finance control for the Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Philly, and Delaware markets. From there, I'm now in a sales zone director role where I oversee Southern New England, so all of Connecticut and Rhode Island. So, as Kevin talked about the DSD model, I'm the other side of the DSD model. We are the direct store portion of this. So, my team sells, delivers, merchandises, and loads trucks at night, of course, for all of the sales in Connecticut and Rhode Island. So similar to Kevin, we're looking for individuals that'll be frontline leaders, people that are motivated to come in and help guide, frontline employees, and work their way through to becoming eventually zone directors, market directors, and so on. So it's very much sales driven. We are in the trade. There's two different formats, large and small. Large format being more grocery oriented, small format being more a gas station, restaurant, and a smaller footprint store. Um, so that's sales in a nutshell.
So I have a quick question, Joe. So if students who are seniors and Kevin are coming right out of college, can you talk to me about what are the skills needed for them to supervise other people? And is that part of your training program?
Yeah, so similarly to Kevin, we on the sales side of the business, we have a similar 6 month training program. And some of the skills that we're looking for, we're looking for driven individuals who are motivated and eager to help develop individuals that are entry level employees, such as sales reps, drivers, merchandisers. We're looking for people with a passion and really strong interpersonal skills that are driven, and again, eager to learn and to get in the trade and really get to understand the core aspects of our business. Kevin?
Yeah, and I'd echo what Joe said. Some of the key things that we look for is leadership. As coming into the company and learning, right? We need somebody that's willing to learn, wants to learn, right? There's the sales side that Joe does. I was interested in the manufacturing side. I like to describe to people I work in an episode of how it's made. If that type of thing interests you, then that's what we teach. I had no manufacturing experience before I started in a plant, but I was able to learn the operation. But leadership is really the big thing. A desire to manage people, to work with people. We like to call it here our Pepsi family, that we work together as a team, and we manage our teams to be successful. So leadership is a big one. Interpersonal skills are very important, right? We need to be able to talk to people every day. We need to be able to coach people every day. We need to be able to tell people they're doing great. We need to tell people that they need to improve upon in the operation across many different personalities, age groups, right? So it's very important to be able to lead a team. Group project leadership is big. Sport team leadership is big. Managing people at a job is very important. And one thing that Joe and I will tell you is we can teach a lot of people the sales side and in the manufacturing side if somebody's interested.
Got it.
Judy, one thing that might be, that's very impactful about Pepsi is that we really put an emphasis on career growth and about individuals being able to work cross-functionally. So although you may come in as on the sales side of the business, you could eventually work your way into manufacturing, into marketing, into some supply chain roles. There's just such a diverse amount of possibilities with Pepsi. And our goal is to help people get to where they want to be in their careers and help them grow, not just with the company, but as individuals as well. So plenty of growth potential with Pepsi.
Got it. And since a lot of the skills that you mentioned are more super important, but more on the soft skills, the communication and the leadership, give me some examples of something that you might see on a resume that would interest you in that person, since it's a lot of those softer skills that you're looking for. Kevin, you want to give us an example?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, a sports team, being a captain of a sports team or any type of club, a president of a club. That's again, leading a group. It could be a small group, it could be a large group, right? Outside of work, right? Even just working at a retail store or working at a restaurant, and managing or being a night manager, having that experience that is overseeing people, and being able to talk to that. And Joe and I can both attest to, right, our leadership has grown throughout our careers, right? We're not the same leaders that we were at the beginning, but there's a starting point that we look for, that people that have managed, and those are some good experiences. Any type of experience that you can show leadership, or that you've overseen a group, or been in a tough situation, or had to address conflict, are key things that we look for when we're looking for the future leaders of our organization.
Yeah, I've had several individuals that have applied who have had, RA experience. And that's, for me, when I'm looking at someone who's coming out of college and you've dealt with that kind of an impact at a younger age, and you're dealing with individuals and different attitudes and different personalities, and being able to resolve conflict quickly, that's really paramount for us. Also, extracurriculars, looking at what you do outside of your schoolroom, outside of work. We have a lot of employee-run groups here at Pepsi, across multiple diverse groups. And we want everyone to be impacted and feel empowered to be able to grow with the company again, and improve our diversity and improve our overall performance based on, thought process. So the more involved you are in your community, the more you're going to make an impact here at Pepsi. And that's one of the big things we look for.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit about what the interview process is, and where they would find these job listings? If you have a link, feel free to put it into the chat bar also.
Yeah, so interview process typically is you'll interview. We have group interviews that we set up. So for a full day, myself will interview 5 or 6 people. So you first interview with somebody at Pepsi. It could be HR, it could be myself, it could be Joe, it could be a unit manager that's overseeing a sales building. And then from there, if they say yes as the first round, you will typically then go interview at with a location. So a location that's hiring. All virtual. Usually on the first interview, we'll ask about where you want to live, or where you're willing to relocate to, or any specific geography you want to be in, and then we try to tie that to it. So if somebody said, I want to work in manufacturing at Cranston, Rhode Island, then I would be their last interview, and then we would typically interview and potentially bring on site to come see the operation. But it's usually about 2, maybe 3 interviews. The first interview is with really kind of a general person to go through some general questions. And then once you get passed along, then you'll go to the further step of that location interview. I believe our jobs are posted on the Yukon career site, but they're also, if you go to PepsiCo jobs, it is a national opening. So you'll see it might be in New York, or it's just one opening, and it's typically a campus role or a designate role. And if you'd apply to that, then after that, that's where we look at location, because we recruit sales and supply chain all across the country. Joe and I are specifically looking for the New England area and our locations, but there are openings across the country. And then through that interview process, you can let somebody know where your location preferences would be. Because like I said, I've moved about 4,000 miles over the last 4 or 5 years. So there is the opportunity to relocate with Pepsi as well.
Okay, great. Good to know. Saif, you put a question in. Do you want to ask your question?
Sure. Kevin touched on this, but I looked at a few positions within finance, and it seemed like most of those positions were out of the country. So I just wanted to know how relocation would work in terms of that, and how the other benefits that are offered as well.
So where do you know specifically where they were?
So most of them are in India. There was a few in Australia, and then Singapore, I believe.
Okay. So if there are finance opportunities in the United States, that they be out of either typically purchase, which is where our headquarters is, or White Plains. We do have a centralized finance group out of India that does some of our reporting. But I couldn't speak exactly to how the relocation to another country would go from a first-time hire, but the finance roles for new graduates would be coming out of the New York offices.
Yeah, typically when you look at the roles, you'd want to just filter it down to New York or US based, and that's where you'd be applying.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
locally, actually, just for other roles, if you're looking at relocation. So Kevin brought up a great point on how, he's relocated several times in his career. So the way that relo works is as you continue to grow with the organization and you look at other roles that are available in other states, typically the company will provide relo depending on the miles from the location that you're going to be transferring from. I think it's something like 50 to 80 miles. So that's generalized based on the scope of the role that you're going for. But it's always a good rule of thumb to be available to relocate, especially if a company like Pepsi is willing to relocate you and pay for you to travel. It's a great way to see the country. It's a great way to learn new roles and see different areas and different high share, low share markets versus just going back to where you came from and kind of being back in that one little area. It's a great way to broaden yourself.
So would you say a candidate would be more appealing if they were more willing to relocate?
Generally speaking, yes, because ideally as you come into the organization, if we have availability in New England, I'd love to have you as part of our team. If we have availability within our market or our division in, let's say, Cincinnati, Ohio, or Michigan, if that's something that you'd be interested in, it opens up your ability to move quicker through our organization and to be able to pick up new experiences the more that you could relocate versus being in a given area where there might be a finite amount of roles available at a given time.
Yeah, a great example would be if I stayed in Cranston, I probably wouldn't be the plant director right now. I had to leave and gather different experiences, and it's a lot to move, but I value those moves. I learned a lot. I've got experiences from different facilities because not every facility does everything the same. So I've been able to bring some really great things that I've learned from other facilities along with me. And in the meanwhile, be able to move around every couple of years. To be able to get to the point in my career where I wanted to. And again, that's one thing that Pepsi does offer, right? I talked about my career, a couple of years in every single role. Again, a lot about driven by performance and driving results, but you're not going to come to Pepsi and do the same role for 5 to 7 years, right? You're going to come to Pepsi and you're going to hopefully excel in what you do through our campus program, right? Because that's our campus program is to build the future leaders of our organization. And you're going to excel and you're going to be able to go do another role and go do something different, selling differently, maybe managing an account in, potentially Pennsylvania or up in Boston. So there's those opportunities that Pepsi affords for that rapid career growth, if you're a high performing individual. I'll tell you, not too many companies are able to offer that kind of career trajectory. Again, I was able to become a director in 10 years after graduating school. And Pepsi really was able to give me that opportunity.
Do either of you have summer internship opportunities? I know you were talking about full-time, but I noticed that there is something about a supply chain intern on,
Yep.
on our career portal.
Yep. Yeah, we offer internships typically to juniors going into their senior year. They'll come on site both in sales and supply chain for about 10 to 12 weeks. And again, that is again another opportunity for somebody to come in. We try to use that internship as the feeder into our supply chain or our sales campus programs. So they kind of come through. They do a 10 to 12 week. They learn the business, and typically we'll do some type of project. And that is, again, another interview time to say, okay, at that point, we decide whether our interns will become full-time hires or if we're going to go in a different direction.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Anybody that has questions, go ahead or put them in chat, whatever you're comfortable with. It's all good.
A question. This is Kathy. It's nice to see both of you again. So in the job description, it says they're looking for a highly motivated self-starter. How does somebody describe that, either in their resume or maybe in their LinkedIn profile or cover letter? How do you read into a highly motivated self-starter?
Yeah, so one thing I would look at is, whether they went out and, took on different experiences. Again, like I mentioned, maybe going and starting a club or joining a club and then talking through, I started as a member and then in 2 years I became the president. Or, I oversaw a project or I had a capstone and I then led it and this is how I did so.
Great. Yep, that makes sense. I think sometimes it's harder for students when they think, if I don't have something that specifically speaks that. Yeah, that's
I
great.
think similar diversity of roles is also very important and crucial. It shows that you have the ability to flex and, strain between different roles or different options.
Okay. So the other students that are with us, Cameron and Abdullah, what is your major right now? Just curious. Cameron? I think you're on mute. You're on mute.
No, I
Yeah,
think your butt's in.
Go ahead. Yes. I think you're on mute.
You might need to check the audio connection.
Yeah, you're still on mute, Cameron. There you go. Your mic may be off, though.
Yeah, your mic may be off. We'll come back to you in a minute. Abdullah Hadi, you can go now.
Exactly, yes.
Come back.
Thank you, Judy. And actually, thank you for the questions you asked. It's very important for us and clarify the process for applying. So I'm currently at Hartford campus. I'm doing my MBA with a dual consideration in business analytics and financial analysis. And I'm really interested in applying for Pepsi. I actually applied for a financial rotational MBA program. And I heard back from the HR, and they asked me about my preferred location. I submit my preferences, but I didn't hear back yet from them. So, do you think I should go back and check with the HR person who contacted me about this, or?
Yeah, I would say send back an email and just ask if there's been any progress from the last time you were in contact with them. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great way to just bridge the communication with them and make sure that they understand you're still interested and that you still have your hierarchy of where you'd like to be placed.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Actually, I have just a small question related to that. So, you mentioned that in the first call, I've been asked about the location where I prefer to work. So, sometimes there is just application, and okay, you have to name those locations. If I'm open for the relocation, I'm open for traveling, and I'm a big fan of traveling. I'm moving to different places. So far, like I visit many states in the U.S. Also, I visit different countries. So traveling is my passion. So how do you think I can express that and get some how that could positively impact my application?
That's a great question. The way it positively impacts your application is that it basically gives you more opportunities for roles. So let's say you were only interested in being in our purchase facility and that there's a round number. Let's say there's 20 roles available there. You're going for one of those 20. If you were to say that you're available to relo, you're available to go to multiple sites, you might be looking at one out of 100 different roles. So it's easier for you to actually get in and gives you that ability. If it doesn't specifically designate whether you're relocatable on the application, if there's a comment section, I would always just put something in there saying that, hey, I'm open to any location that's available, open to relocation, And then as you're having that discussion with HR, once they reach out to you, you might want to reinforce that with them and let them know, hey, I don't really have a specific area I'm willing to go to. I can go anywhere.
All right. Thank you very much. That's great advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point to make, right? If anybody on this call decides to apply and gets the interview with Pepsi, have that thought through. We will ask you. We will ask you, where you would like to live. Are you relocatable? And like Joe said, if somebody says, "Hey, I only want to be in Hartford," that limits your opportunities. If you say, "I'm willing to go in our entire North Division, which spans about 10 states," your opportunities are more.
Thank you, Kevin.
Cameron, are you working now, do you think? No, no audio yet.
How about now?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yes. Okay, sweet. Sorry about that. So I'm a junior year accounting major, and I applied for the accounting controls internship opportunity in New York. Would I also be able to apply to a sales and supply chain controls in New York or wherever as well?
Yeah. If that's something that you're interested in going into, you could. I would just tell you that if you're looking at it from a bridging the gap standpoint of I'm going to get to finance, typically when you come into it, for instance, I could speak to the sales side. The goal is to get you into a sales lead position where you'll be managing people. There's no saying that you can't eventually get to finance as you grow, but realistically, it'll be to try to get you into a sales position. From there, endless possibilities as you grow through the organization. I've had individuals that have come in with physics majors that ran our warehouse. I've had individuals with finance majors that have been amazing sales district leaders and sales managers for us. So the degree you're going for is crucial. It's very important, but it shouldn't just be the only guiding force in your career or as you go looking through your career and what the possibilities might look like. I started out as an education major. I was going to go teach, and now I'm running the state of Connecticut and Rhode Island. So everyone's career paths deviate, and you grow and you start to learn and see what you like and you dislike. So I would tell you, if you're interested and you think that you're a motivated individual who could do well in a leadership position, come on down.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and in a big company like Pepsi or a company of that size, you can apply for different opportunities. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't check in on where you are in the process for the first job that you applied for. But yeah, absolutely, the more the merrier. So did you say you're a junior, Cameron?
Yes, I am a
There's
junior.
also some summer internship, so that might be what you're referring to. So that's all good. Any other questions? I know we're getting close to our time, but I am happy to consider other questions. So in the meantime, Joe and Kevin, what I didn't hear in the interviewing process is anything regarding, you do a virtual interview, but not a recorded video interview like some companies do. So
No.
everything is either virtual or in person. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Yeah, one other thing I'd like to add for, just for context for, coming into either a sales or supply chain role is, one thing to note is we're not your typical 9 to 5. We work early hours. The sales team can start, bright and early, 5, 6 in the morning. For me in supply chain, I operate 3 shifts. So we have people that are on second shift or on third shift. And again, there's some weekends that are involved depending on what sales side you're on. In supply chain, there will be weekends. And again, this is for the beginning part of the career until you're able to get on a more set schedule. And even for me, I come in early mornings. I'll be in at 5 some days, and I'll come back and check on my team at 10 o'clock at night if needed. So again, just one thing to keep in mind, right? For these roles, you want to be able to want to lead and manage people. You want to be willing to be flexible from a shift perspective or a time perspective. The roles that me and Joe are talking about are not particularly remote and work from home jobs where we're in the facility. I needed to be in the plant every day during COVID to be able to make sure that we were producing the products that everybody was drinking. So again, just another thing to keep in mind before you apply for a supply chain or a sales job is, again, it's not going to be an office-based role. You're going to be on the plant floor, or you're going to be out in the trade with the sales team. But a lot of people enjoy it. I enjoy it. I know Joe enjoys it. And it's something different for all of us every day.
It's a great point. And I think that we really have a brand new understanding of what supply chain is in the last 2 years and how that impacts our life. So, thank God for the supply chains that kept going during the pandemic. Some of them really got curtailed, and we're still going through the effects of that. So good to know that you guys kept the lights on during that period.
We did.
That's great. Okay, any other questions before we say adieu this afternoon? No? Okay. Well, Kevin and Joe, thank you very much for joining us. And we did put the links to these 2 jobs, although there are other jobs in Handshake also. We put the links to the 2 full-time jobs in the chat. One of them is supply chain and one of them is sales. I know that some of you are accounting and finance majors. There are other jobs as well. We had Joe and Kevin join us today, but there are other jobs as well in an organization as big as PepsiCo is. So thank you very much for joining us, and have a good day, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Kevin,
Thank you so much.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Yes, stop recording.